Rich Rodriguez is throwing his hat in the ring. He wants to join Donald Trump and Nick Saban to save college football.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name's Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia. Man, wasn't expecting to see this headline today, but I'll take it on a slow news Wednesday. Brought to you by FanDuel, of course. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. That's if you win that first $5 bet, guys. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com to get started. And where do we begin? I think I'll share screen. That's where we'll begin. Let's go to SiriusXM Radio over on X, where Rich Rodriguez spoke today to Danny Cannell and company and had this to say.
He's the greatest college football coach of all time. And not only that, is he has a great grasp of the game in general. My phone, I will give them my cell number. They want an active coach to be on the deal. I'll be on that sucker. And, I've
leave it to Rich Rodriguez, right?
got some experience that could help from a current standpoint. I don't know if they need me, though, but having Coach Saban on there, I think because he's not going to, he doesn't have an interest to help his team or whatever. He's truly about college football.
And so it stays along that vein for about 20 more seconds. First of all, let's just keep it real on, I understand that this isn't, happening or anything like that. And it's not something that is inevitable or anything like that. But I do think it's kind of fun to explore what would that look like, if Rich Rodriguez could somehow get in there to help. What would that look like and why would he be good for the job? So I sat down and did a little something on that. I thought, you know what? I could probably figure out a few reasons why I think Rich Rodriguez would be good for that job, and whatever job you want to call it, maybe boots on the ground. You got an active coach. We see it all the time in other leagues where active members of a league helps out with the management of the league in certain ways, or report on certain things, or just keeping the pulse on the day-to-day what it's like now, because if you're not living it, you don't know, right? So here's why I think Rich Rodriguez would be a very good choice. Now, are there better choices out there? Perhaps there are, but I think him advocating for this on himself, there's a couple of things I can look at and say, okay, I can see this. So we're going to talk about that. And then also, guys, Brink McMurphy, a lot of you guys probably saw it, released a list today of Big 12. It was like Big 12 over-unders from a website that's going to see exactly, what the win probabilities are for each Big 12 football team this year. We're going to go over that too, because I think, where West Virginia is on there is pretty rough, if you're going to ask me. So we're going to do that as well. Let's begin. First of all, I think, football's at a crossroads, absolutely. You've got NIL chaos. You've got transfer portal madness, a system that's teetering on the edge. And President Donald Trump seemingly has a plan here. And College Sports Commission seems like the way to fix it. Nick Saban in charge. But, the last thing I had on my list was Rich Rodriguez cheering them both on and advocating to join this thing, which is pretty interesting. So what would that look like? Like I said, he's got a 30-year coaching journey, really, across multiple levels. You can go from Glenville State all the way to Michigan, right? And everything in between: West Virginia, Arizona, Jacksonville State, Louisiana Monroe, Ole Miss, every conference, every level. He's seen it all. Small budgets, big egos, and everything in between is what I have written down here. He's an innovator. And I think this is the number one thing. Like, if you're going to pitch a Rich Rod marrying alongside these two guys. I think, the number one thing you have to give RICHROD credit for, he's an innovator in so many different ways, from the way he acts to the hard edge mentality. Not that, he didn't invent that, but the slogan with it, the way it's a way to motivate players, to the way he played on the field as a walk-on. He's always played from behind in a lot of ways. And he created and popularized the spread offense that we know today, that's literally revolutionized college football to the point of everybody uses a variation in his offense for the most part. It's in the NFL, so now it's gotten a little bit, obviously a little bit more, I don't want to say tricky, but like it's gotten a lot more, there's a lot more layers to it now, obviously. So people have added to it, but he started it. So, he's a guy who calls plays, like Pat McAfee said, and he shaped how the game is played. And that's kind of a forward thinker that you need on a commission, tackling NIL and the transfer portal, in my opinion. And he's not retired. He's doing it now. He's in the trenches. And here's the other part of this, guys, that I think is extremely important in this. It's got to be a guy that's not in the big two if you're going to do this, in my opinion. I get it. Cody Campbell is already a part of this, but he is a bystander, right? He's a business guy. If you put a coach, Nick Saban's already kind of affiliated with that, right? With the SEC. So, and best believe Alabama is going to be put number one, over anybody else, in my opinion, whether he would admit that publicly or not. It's just common sense. That's his home. Literally spent his best years there. It's where he became Nick Saban. He was just an up-and-comer at LSU that had a lot of potential, went to the Dolphins and failed. So, like that Alabama job was a savior for him in a lot of ways. And I think he and Miss Terry both see it that way. So just like Rodriguez said, I could help from a current standpoint. And I do think it gives them, a pulse on today's challenges from the other side. Everybody knows how easy it is to front run with the Big 12 and the Big 10. But what about from our side of things, ACC, Big 12, or even Group of Five, and maybe a Trent Dilfer or somebody like that from Group of Five would be great. I'm not saying they wouldn't be, but you got to have a voice representing our room too, because we get buried in all this crap. He's learned from mistakes, man. I think this is a very important part of this too. He's resilient. He's had to grow through shit. Like, he's had some bumps in the road, and some of these are really bad. I get it. The Arizona scandal's not great at all. I get it. It's not a great look. So, but that's what I like about Coach Rod, because I'm a flawed person, much more flawed than Coach Rod is. You want to stack my resume up against Coach Rodriguez? We can do that anytime. And I promise you, he'll look like a saint coming out of there. So I'm the last person. Point is, I'm the last person that's ever going to judge, right? So that redemption, that relevance, I think, that he has come back to Jacksonville State, where he was really good at flipping that program over from FCS to where it is now. So he really knows what it's like at all levels and can offer so much insight. I mean, just think about it. Here's another big one. How about his friends? He has very powerful friends, and the biggest voice in the media in Pat McAfee to help. What do you want to get done right now? If I need to put this thing out there, or if I need to get this narrative out there, could Nick Saban and Rich Rodriguez slip into Pat McAfee and say, hey, can you run with this? Absolutely. Would Rich Rodriguez help that along more than anybody else that you can mention? Absolutely. So I think the powerful friends, you got a billionaire friend in Ken Kendrick. Those guys always come in handy, and another thing is he's an owner, right? So Rich Rodriguez can make a call to his owner, billionaire friend owner, and get some perspective on different things, right? So that's another thing. And so basically McAfee would be a megaphone and for all intents and purposes for whatever it is they want to do. There's behind the scenes influence, there's narrative control, there's public support that McAfee could offer. So I think that's important. I think, here's another thing. Coach Rodriguez has been outspoken about the need for structure in college sports, just like Coach Saban. He's talked about the screw ups of the last few years. He just talked about it on that earlier. And unregulated NIL deals, portal free for alls. He wants to reform this. And so that puts him on the right side of what they're trying to do here. He wouldn't be somebody that's like holding them back or against what they want to do. And I think he has a great passion for the game, and there's not too many guys like Saban or RICHROD left that do things the right way outside of, the other side of this is they're coaches. They're not bound by anything, and they've made all this money. So why should they try to reform something that just keep the players down? That's like the other side of this, because if you guys didn't know, there has been Nick Saban's received some criticism here lately from a law firm saying, look, here's a guy who's made tens of millions of dollars. Now he's trying to reform college sports, and the sport that he made all his money off of, he's trying to basically get a stranglehold back on that same way that it used to be. Like, that's the way they're trying to frame this. I don't think that's necessarily it. It's just it's gone too far the other direction. Obviously, there's no other way around to like, I think it'll get to a point to where a lot of people eventually will walk away and will ruin the sport if they don't pull it back. So that's my opinion on it, guys. Hope you liked it. Would love to see Coach Rod further this. Would love to see him actually be a part of it. Don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's fun that he brought it up. It gave me something to talk about. Up next, guys, Brett McMurphy. I even made a thumbnail because I was so mad earlier about it. Even though it wasn't him, he was going to be the target of my anger with this. Oh, it's not going to show it with the thumbnail that I had made. So, obviously West Virginia projected at 5 wins. I want to talk about that next because I don't agree. We'll talk about it next. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. And look, here's the deal. Every night is going to deliver those highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot, breakout player. There's never really been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before and during the live game. Player props, performance trends, same game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how can tracking their trends help you build your next bet? That's what makes it so fun. You got to head to FanDuel to find out, though. It's the perfect time to sign up. Playoffs are in full swing. You head over to FanDuel.com, place a $5 bet. If that wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more today with FanDuel, guys, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Crack-a-doo in segment 2 with me, guys, as we get to go in on Brett McMurphy and the tweet he put out. I didn't know this until I looked back at it, but this wasn't McMurphy's list. So my initial framing for this video was wrong, but I'm glad I caught it. So here you have Big 12 regular season over-under win totals via Circus Sports, which if you go to Circus Sports, it says sports betting the way it should be over 24/7, Circa Las Vegas. So they're one of the Vegas spots, basically. So here are the over-under win totals. You've got Arizona State at the top with 8.5 on their over-under. Kansas State also at 8.5. Texas Tech at 8.5. Baylor at 7.5. BYU at 7.5. Iowa State at 7.5. Kansas at 7.5. Utah's at 7.5. Houston's at 6.5. TCU's at 6.5. Cincinnati's at 6. Colorado 6, Arizona 5.5, UCF 5.5, Oklahoma State 5, and West Virginia 5. Literally the worst team in the conference. That sucks, man. You know? So what's it all mean? Like, why are people looking down on us like that? And, you know, here's another thing too. I don't think Vegas can accurately predict anything like this like they used to be able to. I think this NIL thing has thrown a big wrench in that too. Now, once you play a couple games, yeah, then I pay attention to it because once they get some data in, it's over. But like before the season, there's no way to know how like they can't go down and see like if a couple of these Division II guys we brought up pay off or an FCS guy we brought up pays off. There's no way Vegas knows about that. I won't believe it. So, like there is some margin here, but so obviously I've got a couple of things to say about this. I do not think 5 is the right number for West Virginia. You've got a team like Utah at 7.5, who was just as bad or worse than us last year. So I don't know. I just feel like 5 is a little bit too low. I was thinking like 6.5 maybe, but 5 is just really low. I want to say egregious because I get it. We're not returning anything. But I really do like the roster the players that we brought in. But it's my first time ever evaluating this. Here's what I'm basing it off of for the most part. Rich Rodriguez did this exact same thing last year at Jacksonville State on a lower level, but the same amount of players. And by week 3, they were a really good football team. Not just a good football team, a really very good football team. And we've got a better coaching staff here than we do there outside of offensive line coach. Nobody we could bring in can compete with that guy, Trickett. But I do think McNail is a good coach and can suffice in this situation. So here's my breakdown for this. It's really kind of struggled. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to list some different things like, they're not really reasons. Just hear me out on some of this. I think the secondary is going to be better than people think. I really, truly do. Kiki Tarnu, I think, is going to be a better player next year. Nobody's talking about him, but he's a veteran presence with the state. I think he's going to stabilize their secondary. He's played in this system before, and I really could see a situation where you've got him. You've got, obviously, Jordan Walker, who I love on Chattanooga on tape. Jordan Scruggs from South Alabama, 70 tackles and an interception last year. He's a nickel. What about Fred Perry, one of the best tackling safeties in the country last year with 257 career tackles, 6 forced fumbles? He's only got 1 year left, so he's an experienced guy. What about Derek Carter? A lot of people like him maybe to start. Michael Coates is all Big 12 potential player, like one of our best players we brought in. We know that. You got Darren Lewis, who my buddy on the BIP list had him rated as a 5-star transfer, a guy that played in the pros and college level. Devontae Golden Nelson was also on that team with him. 74 tackles, 7 passes defended, and 1 pick last year. Like, there is a ton of ability on that back end that we only need 4 of them to really hit. I mean, you need depth. But, I mean, to have a good defense, there's a world out there where, you get 4 of these guys to hit. Well, it's actually more than 4. It's technically 5, I guess, with the 3 safeties. But I still think that they brought enough good players in to make something out of it. And if you've got a good defense in this league, you can win games. And I think, you look there, our defensive line room is very stable. Now, I think we need on defensive line, obviously, we've got the mainstays. We've got Hammond Russell. Obviously, we got plenty of talent there as far as that goes. Obviously, Asani Redwood's back. Obviously, we got the big boy back in the middle who was hurt last year. But Corey McIntyre, from what I understand, and I've asked offensive linemen about him that played on the team last year and the year before. Um, I don't want to put any names on it because I don't know how they would feel about me saying this, but Corey McIntyre, before he got hurt, first of all, he was going to start as a true freshman, but he got hurt. Then he was going to start last year and he got hurt again. So that's a huge worry. I get that. But if he comes into his own as a talent, he's got a chance to be a first team all Big 12 player from what people say. So Corey McIntyre Jr., guys, is a player that I just pray somehow, some way comes into his own for us because he's so talented from what we understand. He hasn't even got a chance to play a game yet. So he's inexperienced in a lot of ways. But you add him with Eddie V, Hammond Russell, you start to look at Nate Gabriel. Like, our defensive line room is pretty deep with the rotation, and that's not even counting Jamori Robinson that we brought in. That's not even counting Braden Siders, who's really technically a bandit. The kid we just brought in from Incarnate Word that played at Colorado just came in. Like, the depth on defense is there. Linebackers is the only position that you look at and wonder about. But I think Bogle and Wilson are good. I think that, a lot of guys like Ben Cutter, I like him as a run defender for sure. I don't know about a pass defender. That's my biggest worry for him. But I think overall the defense has a chance to be way better than people think. And then you got Zach Alley calling the plays very aggressively. I think we've got some fast athletes, and that's, Justin Robinson. I didn't even mention his name yet. If he turns back into what he was, like, there are so many things on that defense that could really, really make an impact. So that's a big part of this because I think I worry, like, obviously my biggest fear is our offensive line. Even though we brought in 4 SEC players, I don't know how they're going to work out. And, we had some guys that were from the last regime that we need those guys to be good. We need Nick Cray and Landon Livingston to be like dudes. If we get that, we've got a shot, But, like, we have to have Livingston and Cray stay where they were supposed to stay at either left tackle or right, wherever we want to put Cray, guard, I don't care. And Livingston needs to win that center job. Like, he doesn't have to. Somebody better can win it, but I just think if those guys end up being really good and not getting beat out, that's a positive sign rather than it being all brand new up there. At least you could have 2 guys that have played together up there on the front lines a little bit. It's just my opinion. So what about wide receivers? You start to look at who we brought in, what's there. Obviously, Rodney Gallagher's there. Obviously, Jaden Bray. And let me just tell you, so when I do these interviews, I ask people about players, obviously. And you better believe the last one I did with Jalen Henderson, I asked him about some players. I'll just say, man, Jaden Bray has had a good spring. I've heard this from multiple people, and I am excited about his potential. Remember, guys, he had a nice stat line. What do you have, 400 yards for Oklahoma State 2 years ago? He was young, redshirt freshman when he did that. He's a guy, and he had no quarterback play last year with no offense to Garrett, but we weren't throwing the ball very much or well. So I think this is a year he could break out if we get some competent passing. That's going to be the key. So, and he's a big physical kid that can block. That's another thing. But you add him and Gallagher into a situation, obviously Preston Fox. I showed you guys that were on Singleton video the other day who had almost 70 catches last year for almost 700 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he had huge big play kickoff and punt returns as well. Cam Vaughn, it could be the best receiver in the conference. I am not exaggerating. There are so many people that feel like Cam Vaughn is on the verge of becoming a breakout superstar that I'll be surprised we're able to keep next year if he does what he can do. Last year, he caught 50 balls for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. That's really, really good for a redshirt freshman. It's elite for a redshirt freshman. So, and he's got that 4.3 speed. It shows up on tape. He absolutely dusts people, and he's an elite route runner. And it's not even close. It's elite route running. So, I think Cam Vaughn obviously is their number one receiver, but if Bray turns into what he's supposed to, Oron Singleton's another 4.3 guy. So, it's just like, gosh, man, you got so many fast guys. And then you look at like Justin Smith Brown, who had 54 catches for 749 yards last year as well. There's a lot of guys on here. Cyrus Traw had 36 catches, 409 yards, 5 touchdowns. Like, these are guys that have all been in the end zone. He was an FCS All-American. Cyrus Traw was. Yes, it was FCS. It's got to translate. I get that. But can 3 or 4 of these guys translate over? I think they can. Will it happen all at once? I don't know. That's the question, right? Where it matters the most, though, obviously quarterback is going to have to work. Like, we need to not just hit on quarterback. We need to really hit on quarterback. And can I just tell you guys an extra scenario to this season? Let's go to break really quick. And I'm going to tell you something I've been told about, not Nico or Jalen, somebody else, and it'll shock your daggone socks off. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, guys. Locked on West Virginia in segment 3. So, Scotty Fox, obviously, is a name. And, here's what I was told. And, I'm making a point to, if the guys will conversate with me about the players, I will. I had a 2-hour-long conversation just yesterday about this. And he said this to me. Not only is our quarterback room good, it's potentially great. And it's not even necessarily because the number 1 or number 2 guy. Scotty Fox could be ready sooner than later to not just be good, but really good. Like, there's a lot of buzz coming off of him. And this is from guys that see him every day in practice. They're around him every day in the weight room. They're around him every day in the program. And I have been told that he has got superstar written all over him. So, and you're going to hear more about him. So could we have a Pat White situation on our hands with him where, hell, we think it's going to be Jalen or Nico, and it could be Scotty Fox? Nobody knows about him right now. But could Scotty Fox be a lot better than anybody knows? And they're not telling us because it's the portal era. You want to see somebody poach him? No. So obviously he can't go in now. So we're past that. But I just think, just as far as scenarios go, don't rule that one all the way out. Could Scotty Fox come in and really light it up in year 1? I think next year's the year to really look for him. But I'm told, like, this kid is a dog. And this is one of those ones where RICHROD's just kind of benefiting from a Neil Brown guy, but that's okay. Coaches do it every year. So the offensive line is another thing here. And I'm going to get to my total, my over or under. So, let's just talk about some of these O-linemen. You've got Nick Cray. You got Landing Livingston. Walter Youngbear's got over 1,000 snaps. He's got 1 year left. Malik Agbo's got 32 games. He's a former 4-star player with 2 years left. He's a really athletic guy. He's caught passes for Texas out of the offensive line backfield last year. Carson Lee's got 1,100 career snaps, and played and was starting with the first string at Mississippi State until he transferred. I can't talk publicly about it, but Michael Clay has got 29 games and 15 starts at right tackle, albeit at North Alabama, but he's an athletic guy. There is a world where this offensive line could come together. I just think that we're going to have some guys that maybe aren't name brand right now hit. I think Texas's 6th offensive lineman, this is a guy, Malik Agbo, that was right there on the cusp. He did start 3 games for him over the course of his career, Or no, I'm sorry, I might be wrong on that. I have to go back and look. I know he played a lot. You know, he's a guy they brought in on extra packages. They blocked with him a lot. Like he was that sixth guy. You know, Texas is a playoff team. I say this a lot, but Texas as a playoff team was really good, really deep. Their sixth offensive lineman is a starter a lot of places. So could Ogbo turn out to be a much better player than we thought with 2 years left? I think so. You know, what about Carson Lee, who was a very good player at Eastern Michigan, was running with the ones at Mississippi State. So could a guy that's got potential to start at Mississippi State in the Big 12, you know, make a splash at West Virginia? Yeah, I think he probably could. I think there's a great shot at that. Now you're talking about there's two players. Well, what if Livingston and what if Cray turn out to be pretty good like we think they could be? You're starting to mold an offensive line together now, although a very young and inexperienced one. 3 games into the season, you play Pitt. We're going to know by then what this offensive line is really like, you know, because we should put up big numbers on Robert Morris no matter who rolls out there. But if we have 100 yards rushing against Ohio University, which is capable of holding us to that if we don't play well, they've won. I mean, you go look at what Ohio University's been the last 5 years. They've had an incredible run. Let's just look. Let me see what OU's done here recently, because I think they've had some pretty good runs. Ohio University football last 5-year records. Okay, so we'll check it out really quick. Let's see, each year specifically. I know they've had some big years. So, okay. The 2020 year was shortened with COVID. Yeah. So they've had 3 straight 10-win or more seasons. I didn't know it was that damn good. They went 10-4 in 22, 10-3 in 23, and 11-3 in 24. Is that who you want to play in week 2? I don't know if it's getting enough coverage, because I didn't realize they were that good last year. Is that right? Because I'm asking Grok this right in the middle of a show. Were they 11-3 last year? We'll find out right now. All right. So looks like they were. Holy cow, man. Let's see. Yeah, they were. Okay, well, so here's the thing. Like, I get it. It's the MAC or whatever they're in now, Sunbelt, wherever they're at now. I mean, it used to be the MAC. This is a team that's got 3 straight double-digit win seasons. Like, this is everything we don't want in Marshall. So nobody's trying to make this political, Ron. This is about fixing college football, nothing else. But yeah, looking at it like from an Ohio University standpoint, and that week 2 game, like that's a game we could stump our toe on. So anyway, I think that's going to be a great game in week 2 to really see like where are we really at. It's going to be a great barometer test. If we blow them boys out, I might be on cloud 9 come Backyard Brawl week. just saying. So, all right. One more quick thing, and then I'll be out of here on this. So, you know, obviously with the running back situation, and I don't want to overlook it because there's a ton there going on. And, you know, it could be the single most important non-quarterback position on the team, right? Got to have a good running back in the system. Do you trust Jaheim White to stay healthy? Could Ty Edwards turn into a beast, a big physical beast of running back that touches 22 miles an hour on the gun? Or what about Cannon Catcher that touches 23 miles an hour on the gun? You know, so like there's a lot of good players in the backfield. If Jaheim White is anything like we think he can be in this offense, he could have like that Ron Dane 2000 type year where it's like, whoa, dude, this kid's an All-American. So offensive line's got to come together. I think we'll know by week 3. Let's look at the schedule really quick before we jump off here. And just kind of be honest about it, I guess is the best way I can put it. So obviously you start with Robert Morris, and that's a win. Then you go to Ohio. It's a very tricky game. 3 straight double-digit win seasons for the Bobcats at Ohio University. And if you haven't ever been in that stadium, I said it the other day, it's a small stadium. It's not big. It's like it looks like a glorified high school stadium. It's got one side that's got the big tall bleachers, and then it's got the other side that's got the little bleachers. Seriously. It's got a track you can see. Like, I wouldn't watch Marshall play there a few times. So, it's a tricky place to play. It gets a little bit loud. Like, it's definitely not loud. It's just not what we're used to. But I mean, it's very tricky. So how many times am I say it's going to be tricky? I don't know, but we're going to keep going with that narrative. It's tricky. So, but I mean, all intents and purposes, you should still start out 2-0. I mean, anytime Ohio's played anybody really good the last few years, they've gotten dusted. And I don't know what they got coming back. As a matter of fact, I might bring on a Ohio University guy to see if we can figure that out here in the next couple of weeks as we go through the offseason. Then the backyard brawl on September 13th at home. Guys, I don't care. Throw the records out. I'm not going to predict us to lose that game unless we start out 0-2 or maybe 1-1. And even then you throw the records out for the game. It's RICHROD. It's the 13-9 reversing the 9-13. It's Narduzzi. I mean, there's just so much there that there's so much meat on that bone. Then you get to a stretch that is definitely, you're going to know who you are real quick. At Kansas, you got Utah coming to Morgantown, then at BYU. This could easily turn into a 1-2 stretch, possibly 0-3. I agree. I mean, I believe that. I'm not trying to sit here and put smoke up anybody's butt. Kansas had a great offseason. They really did. And it's at Kansas, so I can see that being a loss. Utah was bad last year. Could they turn it around in 1 year? I don't know. They got a great coach, that's for sure. So that's another iffy one. Then at BYU, who, I mean, they're the favorites to win the league. About them and Arizona State, right there with each other on that. So, I mean, that's a loss on the road. I'm sorry. I'd be very surprised if we win that game. Then you got UCF. I think we win that game. I think we beat TCU, although I think Hoover's a good player. I think we beat Houston. So that right there is already 6 wins. Could UCF be a lot better than I thought? Yeah, maybe, but they're in their first year as well. So, I think it's fair to say West Virginia wins 6 to 7 games next year. Because, I mean, the Colorado game's another one that, they got a lot of talent. Arizona State and Texas Tech are both going to be loaded. So if you're going to get your wins, if you're going to go over that total, you got to win the first 3. And I see why they set it to 5 now that I'm looking at it more. Obviously, you got to win the first 3, and then somehow you got to win. It's almost like this schedule runs in 3s, really. It actually does. Robert Morris, Ohio University, and Pitt. Then you've got, 3 bad games, which Pitt's not a great game, but Kansas, Utah, BYU. Then you get back to some more possible wins with UCF, TCU, Houston. Then 3 more tough games, Colorado, Arizona State, Texas Tech. So I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Give me your record predictions for this season. I'm going to say 6 wins for now. But next, obviously we're building this thing still. RICHROD, we can't ask the world of him in year 1. But I'm excited to see where this goes. Also excited to see if maybe they answer Coach Rod's phone number. Because, look, I'm all for RICHROD, Nick Saban, Donald Trump trio as far as the content creator goes. Oh, God. Like my videos would be blown up, boys. I appreciate you guys for joining in. You guys have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team every single day. Do me a big favor, guys, before you go. like the video, hit that subscribe button, share the video out, and then check out NFL Draft over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Do it big by they listen, they tell you about your favorite collegiate players, and they help you get ready for the next level and draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And I'll see you guys on the next one. My name's Mountaineer Paul. This episode's over, and I'm out of here.